Hi, I'm Alicia, and my channel is Alicia Runs and Reads, and today we're going to be doing my June wrap-up. In June, I read 21 books. I did have 2 DNFs, and I read 8,700 pages about. Even though I read 10 books less than last month, I have quite a few long ones this month compared to last month. I didn't have any novellas really that I read, so that's probably why. This month I did participate in the Tarot Readathon hosted by Deja and Noel Pages. I had fun doing it, but I definitely needed to just take a little bit easier. I didn't really participate a ton on the Discord or anything, but I did vlog. So yeah, it was a pretty good month. My overall rating was a 3.88, which ain't too dang bad. We'll start with my DNF. So I DNF'd Tried It in the Pearl. I think I only had like 120 pages left to go on this one. It's just so pretty, and I really wish I liked this, but I just didn't. This is about a woman who's a queen of this island nation. There's a huge storm and everyone's going to die and be flooded, and so she makes a deal with the god to save the island. They say, okay, but you've got to marry the first person that steps on your land and give up all your worldly belongings and status and become whatever status that person is. She is already married, but her husband died in the storm, so she's also grieving. So she goes off with him. Yeah, I didn't really like our main character. I thought for a queen she was real dumb. She kept on making really horrible decisions. There was a lot of miscommunication, which I didn't like. This is romantasy. For me, I decided I didn't care about the characters, so I DNF'd it. I also DNF'd Tillinghast, which is an arc by Claire Kavanagh. They say it's like A Man Called Ove, but with a vampire. So we have Tillinghast. He has been a vampire for a really long time. He goes back to his roots, preparing to end his own life. He's been alive long enough. He's had enough. He's ready to slough off his immortal coil, if you will. Then he meets this girl who has his surname and kind of looks like him, and he doesn't know what to think and how this has come about, and she's sick and she's exhibiting symptoms of maybe vampirism, so he takes her in and tries to nurse her back to health, and all that sounds great. And I really thought I was gonna like this book, and maybe I'll give it another shot at some point, but for some reason for me, I was not invested. I thought there were some details that were thrown in there that were just random and didn't need to be, and I just could not get invested in the characters. So sadly I ended up DNFing, but give it a shot if I were you. Maybe it was just my mood at the time, but I was finding myself not really liking it, so I ended up DNFing. All right, all of these books I did read in my vlogs, so I'm not going to talk too much about them. I'm going to go over my ratings, give a quick review, and that is about it. So I did have one book which I gave no rating, and that is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. I have the whole vlog reading this. If you're interested, please go back and watch that. I give a lot of my thoughts on this one in there. Overall, I just couldn't rate this. In my brain, could give it a 1 or a 5, and so I decided to not give it a rating. There were moments of genius in here. There were things I really liked about it. There were things I really appreciated about it. There are also some things that I had issues with, and so I ended up giving it no rating on Goodreads instead of kind of giving it like a mid rating. So that was American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. I think people know what this is about. It's about a Wall Street type of a man who's a psychopath and likes to murder and torture women and just be an overall horrible person. Very, very into himself and his clothing and consumerism of it all. That's all I'm going to say about that one. I think my biggest disappointment for the month was Spoiled Milk by Avery Curran. This one is about a girl's boarding school, and then some of the girls start dying. I think it's in the 1900s? 1928. One of the most popular girls in school ends up falling off the staircase and dying right at the beginning of this book, and she's kind of the popular girl, and it does turn sapphic, and there was so much about this book that I could have loved, but I just didn't. It just felt very meh to me. I wasn't invested at all in the characters. I didn't think there was enough character work. I felt like it was very plot driven, but at the same time the plot was kind of meh. Towards the end I was like, okay, we're gonna get like some answers, like the why of it all. We don't really get anything, but the ambiguity had things to think about, talk about with friends, and so I ended up giving this a 2.5 rating. There were definitely some scenes in here that I thought were definitely entertaining and I saw potential, but for me it ended up just being meh. Another one that was disappointing was Headlights by CJ Lead. That was an arc, but it has just come out now. I have read Mayfly from them and I really liked that one. Not as much as some other people did. I think he gave it a 3.5, low 4, around there, around about that way. This is different because it's from a male protagonist. A lot of bits of The Shining thrown in there. One scene actually goes and takes place at the Shining Motel. And the premise of this book was really interesting. There's a killer, or there are killers, who are found on the side of the road naked with blood all over them, hair of one of the victims tied around their tongue that they've never come in contact with one of the previous victims. They find out that they've killed and sometimes cannibalized people, but they don't know them. They don't remember what happened. They're not the type to have done these things, and there's lots of different people who have done this. It happened years ago and now it's happening again, so our main character is going back to investigate. He's previous investigator, policeman, so he goes back, and there's some trauma in his past as well that you kind of are dealing with that seems maybe to be connected. Supernatural stuff in here too. I found it to be very readable, but it just didn't, all the pieces just didn't come together for me, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. That's Headlights by C.J. Lead. Another arc I read that I gave 3 stars, 3.5, 3, was Little Wild by Laura Evans. This is about a teen girl, who is taken in by this rich, affluent family after her mother dies. The mothers were somewhat friends or something. Her mother killed herself. This affluent family took her in because her father lives on the property in a cabin, but he's not doing well and he's grieving, so they basically take her in and raise her as part of the family, but she's not part of the family, right? So she doesn't get all the privilege that they do, and she ends up entering into a relationship, sapphic relationship, with the daughter. They plan to run away together after she gets back from this summer trip. So she's waiting for her to come back, and they're gonna run away together to be together, etc. But when she comes back, they get found out, so they make our main character go back, live with her father in this cabin, and there's some witchy, supernaturally stuff going on. And the direction it went in surprised me, and I actually really liked it, but it just wasn't enough of that for me. I just wanted a little more of it, more of that, really. And I didn't really so much believe in the relationship so much. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that develop. It. I really got how much our main character was infatuated and loved this other girl, but I didn't see, I wasn't sure if that other girl really loved her. I wasn't completely convinced, and so I ended up giving that 3 stars, but not a bad one at all. I read Summer Reading by Jen McKinley. I got that from the library. Jen McKinley was coming to our library, so I wanted to grab a book and see if I liked it. I thought it was a cute summery romance, and I gave that 3 stars. It was about a dyslexic, I forget what her job was. Oh, she was a chef, a dyslexic chef who is on the island for the summer to take care of her half-brother that lives there, and it's where she grew up. So she goes back there. She lost her job, but she hasn't told her family that yet. And her best friend is a librarian, and she ends up meeting this sexy man librarian. And she's dyslexic, so she doesn't like to read very much, and she struggles. She's like very severe dyslexia. And it's their love story, and he reads to her out loud so that she can still enjoy the things that he enjoys. I thought it was a cute one. Easy breezy summer romance, but nothing like super special, but still cute. I read The Correspondent from the library on my Kindle by Virginia Evans, and The Correspondent, it's about this old woman, sort of in the end of her age, 70 something. So she's not like super old, but she's old enough. And she's had a life, and her kids are out of the house and grown up and have their own kids, and she has a hobby of writing letters to her loved ones, to people she meets, to people she wants to meet, to people, anyone really. And this is entirely written in her correspondence back and forth from different people, and you kind of get the story of her life, things that have happened in her life. It's very sentimental, and I liked it. I didn't love it. I gave it a 3.5. It's not really my cup of tea. It's not my thing, but it's sort of a book of the moment, and I wanted to have read it to see what I feel about it, and my feelings are, it was good. I read The Strength of the Few by James Islington. I gave this a 3.5 as well. This one is the sequel to The Will of the Many. I gave 5 stars. Amazing. I loved that book so much. A lot of people weren't really liking this one, so I went in, maybe because I went into it with a little bit of lower expectations, I still really liked it. I still really enjoyed it. It could be more of like a 4. It's close to a 4, but it's not quite, it didn't quite get there for me. It's hard to talk about this one because it's a sequel, but in this one it kind of goes off in 3 directions, and because there's 3 directions, it doesn't quite get there in any of them, in my opinion. And you know, some are more interesting than others. parts of it are really interesting and I want it, but you just don't get enough of it. There was a death towards the end of this that I thought was sort of quickly gone through, which I thought it should have had more of an impact. And so I ended up giving this a 3.5, but I will continue. Next are my 3.75, so almost 4s. I read Private Rights by Julia Armfield. She wrote Our Wives Under the Sea, which so many of us love. It's a wonderful grief horror transformation book. And this is in a a pre but coming apocalypse, basically, where the rivers and oceans have risen up and there's mostly flooding everywhere, and people have to go to higher ground or build buildings that are up higher so they can live. And this is about 3 sisters who are living in that world, whose father has just passed away, and they have to go back and see what their inheritance is or was and what their father had to say about them. And there is this house that he built. He's an architect, and he was building houses for rich people that have to live in this new world with all this water and flooding. And yeah, so they have to go back to this house to deal with the inheritance. And it's primarily about these 3 sisters, their relationship to each other. But then it gets like weird towards the end. And I liked the environmental stuff, and I liked the weirdness at the end. I wish we got more of that, but it is gorgeously written, and I still think it's great. It's just, maybe it doesn't come completely, didn't hit me as hard as Our Wives Under the Sea. It's still very readable, very beautifully written, still worth your time in my opinion. And so I liked this one, gave it 3.75. Carrion Crow is by Heather Parry, and that was also an arc, another depressing one. It's a horror arc. It's a sapphic gothic horror. It's about a woman who was imprisoned by her mom in the attic of her house in the guise of being prepared for marriage. She wants to marry this older guy who's twice her age, so I guess maybe she was in her late teens, mid-teens. This was, you know, the 1800s or whatever time period this was. I'm not quite sure, but it's historical. So you have this woman, and she's locked in an attic, and you're kind of stuck there with her in this book, and horrible things are happening to her. She's starving, and she has no way to be sanitary, and there are these crows that are nesting in the roof above her, which she can kind of see because there's a small hole in the roof. And so she has this relationship with these birds who lay eggs. But this is primarily about the relationship between mothers and daughters, and abuse and awful things that can happen there, generational abuse, mental health, lots of stuff in there to talk about. It's just a very, very bleak one. And I did vlog this one, but I haven't gotten the footage up yet because it's going to be in a Ready Set Net vlog. See that if you're interested. But I do think that some of the pacing was off, but I did really end up liking it. So I gave it a 3.75. Very, very bleak. Lots of body horror, lots of grossness. I think in my review I said, abandon all hope, all who open this book. So be ready for the bleak if you're gonna read it. I read Practice Makes Perfect. I ended up giving this a 3.75. This is by Sarah Adams. It's a romance in a small town of Rome, Kentucky, I think. And in this one, we have Annie Walker, who's a florist, and she's the youngest of 4 siblings. And they kind of think that she's this angel Annie. She can do no wrong. She's a virgin, and she doesn't do anything bad, and she doesn't want people to swear, etc. And she doesn't like that everyone kind of thinks of her this way, and she wants to be her own woman and subvert these expectations, but she also wants to find love and get married and have kids and stay in this town. That's what she thinks. But she has horrible time dating. She's awkward. So she ends up hooking up with this guy, Will, and he is, I'm sorry, there's a yard work going on outside if you can hear that. He's sexy, tattooed, and he is a personal security person for a character from a previous book. So she hooks up with him as a dating teacher to help her get more comfortable dating, so practice dating and stuff like that. And of course, they end up falling in love. I thought this was cute and I enjoyed it, so I gave it a 3.75. I read Woo Woo by Ella Baxter towards the beginning of the month, and honestly, I barely remember what this is about because it's so weird, and I remember hard to describe. It's about a woman. She's married to this man. She's an artist, and she's very into her art, and her art is her main thing, and her husband is like super supportive of her. And I think what I recall is this is about her downward spiral as she gets ready for this art show that she has put her whole heart and soul into. Yeah, and it gets weird, and the end is pretty unhinged, which I did really enjoy, so I gave this one 4 stars. I read Middle Game by Shanna McGuire, finally, and Allie was going to read this one. I don't know if she actually ended up reading this one. It was her random book, I think, that she drew for her Patreon, and I was like, all right, I'll finally read it. And in this, we have Roger and Dodger, and they were created in a lab through alchemical arts and magics and things and science, and then separated. They're twins. One has all the knowledge of not English, but like language and literature and all of that, and the other one has all the knowledge of math and STEM and all of that. So they grow up and they end up finding their way to each other, and there's time fuckery and weirdness and good versus evil and science versus what is right and what should and shouldn't be messed with and all that, and I ended up giving this 4.5. I read Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi, and this was a solid horror, but there's a lot, it's about a bunch of boys in the 1900s. A lot about the historical this month, I feel like. 1898, so turn of the century. They're in an orphanage that is run by the church, by the Catholic Church. There's no sexual abuse in here, just that's right off the bat, so don't worry about that. But you know, it's not the best situation. They don't have enough food. They're very strict. Sometimes there are punishments that aren't okay. I know what you'd expect in that arena. But then there's this man that comes to the door, and he killed this young girl, and the people that brought him in think that he might be possessed, and so the church has to deal with that. But then after that situation happens, some of the boys start acting really weird and ganging up on each other, and there's lots of murder, and it's way bloodier than I thought it was going to be. But I ended up enjoying it. I gave it 4 stars. I think that maybe a 3.75 now, having a few days to think about it. It's just a horror story. The ending is sad. And if you don't like possession stories, I wouldn't read this. If you don't like religious horror, like not religion bad horror, just like religion, like this is Catholicism, demons and all that, then it probably wouldn't be a book for you. But I thought it was an entertaining time, and I gave it 4 stars. Oh, My Friends, Frederick Bachman, I got from the library. I think I did the audiobook. Ended up giving that 4 stars. It's about this artist who creates this piece of work that this young woman becomes obsessed with. She has a postcard of it that she got in foster home. She's a troubled girl, she's homeless, and so she wants to go see this painting live. So she goes in and wants to see this painting, but then they chase her out of there because she's not supposed to be there, and she meets the artist in the alley, in the back alley, and they make a connection. But he's really sick. He's like almost dying. He's, you know, at the end stages of his disease shortly after he ends up dying, and he ends up leaving the painting to her. It's worth lots and lots of money if she sells it. And she ends up developing a friendship with the partner of this man. And you get back and forth the history of their friendship and the history of the painting. It's very like nostalgic, coming of age, and sentimental, and I enjoyed it. It's not like my type of book, but it was still really good, so I give it 4 stars. Frederick Bachman is one. I read The Man Called Ove. I've read Beartown, so solid books usually. One Yellow Eye by Lee Radford, 4 stars. And in this one, there has been a zombie event in England, London especially, and they have killed all the zombies. Now they're dealing with the aftermath, and the woman in the Casticelli, her husband was one of the last ones to be bit, and instead of killing him or turning him in, she chains him up in her apartment and is hoping to find a cure before she has to destroy him. And she's a scientist, and she ends up working in this top secret lab to try and find a cure, and it's just her dealing with her grief and the realities of this. It's more plot driven than I thought it would be. I thought it would be more like Melancholia and like Purple Prosy and more Our Waves Under the Sea-ish, but there's more plot in here than I thought. But I still really enjoyed it. I thought it was well written. You have to suspend your disbelief. If you're a science person, there are things in here that are going to bother you. One thing that bothered me, I'm like, there's no way they would hire this woman. She has a personal connection to this. She is still grieving. I mean, it hasn't been that long. It's been a few months since her husband died. She is outwardly exhibiting this grief in not eating and looking a mess, drinking a whole lot, and I'm like, they would not hire her. But she has a friend that it gets hired too, so it's like, you have to hire me. Hire her if you hire me. Maybe that's part of the situation. But anyways, I ended up giving this 4 stars. I did really like it. Like I said, you have to suspend your disbelief, and I kind of knew that going in, and I ended up really enjoying it, so I gave it 4 stars. My 4.25s are The Long Walk by Stephen King And this is about boys who live in a world, we don't really know anything about it, but in this world there's this competition for boys under minors to walk for as long as possible, and the last one to drop gets all their wishes fulfilled, basically, and everyone else gets shot. You have to keep up a certain mile per hour, and if you don't, then you're shot. They end up going hundreds of miles. It's sad, it's depressing, it's bleak. Lots of allegory for the Vietnam War and the draft and all of that. Oh, the dogs are barking. Hold on a second. Anyway, I gave that a 4.25. Let's let the dogs out. Oh, The Wishing Pool. This is a short story collection, horror story collection by Tanana Reeve Dew. She wrote The Reformatory. She wrote The Good House. I've enjoyed everything I've read from Tanana Reeve Dew to varying degrees. I gave this 4.25. Solid collection. Highly recommend. There are so many stories in here that I wanted a whole novel of. Tanana Reeve Dew's, her writing is wonderful, and I highly recommend. Yeah, those are my 4.25. I have two 4.5s. I have You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. It's about Andrew Joseph White is a trans man. This is about a trans man. He's also autistic, which Andrew Joseph White is also autistic, and is part of a cult that worships this wormy bug god guy, a hive mind, and he becomes pregnant and is not happy about that because he's a trans man and does not want to deal with anything that has to do with that. Wants to get an abortion, has always said, if I get pregnant, kill me, and the hive wants him to keep the baby. So it's the trauma and horrifyingness of that. It doesn't pull any punches. It is gruesome, gross, horrifying. Be in the right mindset if you want to read this, but I gave it a 4.5. I thought it was really good. It's an important story in my opinion. Horror. Telling these tales in a way that's satisfying and disgusting, and I loved it. This one I was surprised how much I loved. This is a character study, really. It's about at the beginning, there's people waiting for a train. We know that there are 5 of them that we're introduced to, and one of them is going to die by the time the train gets there. And it's the tale and life of these 5 people and how they come together and what's going on in their lives. And it's just, I really liked it. I thought it was really well written. I got invested in every single one of these characters, for better or for worse. And I thought this was great. I thought it was the perfect length, and yeah, I ended up bumping it up to a 4.5 because I just really liked it. I didn't get like emotional. I don't know, maybe I could probably give it a 5, to be quite honest, now that I'm sitting here thinking about it. And then my best books of the month were Yesteryear and The Bitter Twin by Jen Williams. Yesteryear, it's been everywhere. Everyone knows what this is about. It's about a woman who is a big old influencer, and she's living that trad wife lifestyle, making her own bread and doing all these things and putting out this image of herself, but it's not really real because she has all this help and money and inheritance, etc. And then one morning she wakes up and she is in this new reality where she has not been in before, and she's having to live the trad wife lifestyle for real. She wakes up as if she's in the 1800s, and you know, they're living in the same house, but it's not the same house. It doesn't have running water or electricity or any of that. They're living in, her kids are her kids, but they're not her kids. Her husband is her husband, but he's like meaner and crueler. And so it's her navigating this. I think people who like horror, like Weird Girl, will like this. If you're going into it thinking it's going to be literary fiction, I don't think you'll like it as much. It's weird, it gets unhinged. Our main character is definitely a sociopath in my opinion, and I actually really ended up liking this. There were parts at the end where I literally wrote, what the fuck is happening? And so I really liked it. I am of the mind that yes, it deserves the hype, but I know a lot of other people has mixed reviews. Anyway, The Bitter Twins. This was probably my favorite read of the month, other than Yesterday. I don't know, they probably tie. This is a sequel to The Ninth Reign, which I have over there. It's a fantasy book, and it is about this world where there are creatures, like humanoids, that worship this tree god, but the god dies, and so they start dying, so they start drinking human blood because they don't want to age and get old and die. But then the blood, while it helps to keep them going, it also ends up making them all sick, so this whole species is dying. And we enter the scene really when this has already happened. There's also wars that go on every so often where these alien creatures, bug creatures, come down and try to kill everybody, and they're awful and horrifying. And so the tree god drops these fruits that hatch into these beautiful, wonderful, magical beasts that fight back. The Jurley is what they call the enemy. Yeah, so, but in the last reign, it killed the tree god, it killed the Jurley, and it seems like everything has died, and there's going to be no more of this war. But the tree god died, and so the people that worship the tree god are sad because they can't be immortal anymore. It's about these three people, other stuff going on. Anyways, I'm not not really describing it well because this is the sequel and I've already talked about it. So check out my vlog if you want to see. I have one for the night that I read the 9th reign in. I have one I've read this one in. These are fantastic. They're different. This second one, I thought we discovered some new things that I really liked. We traveled to new places that I really liked. I liked it just as much as the first one, which doesn't happen that often for me. And so that being said, this is the end of this video. That's all I have for you guys. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you think of any of these books, if you've read any of them, how your June went, and I will see you next time. Bye.